Hi, I'm David Terrar and welcome to our live stream news and interview show, Cloud Industry Forum presents TWF, from our mixed reality studio, courtesy of our friends at Disruptive Live. I'm the CEO of the Cloud Industry Forum, which is a not-for-profit, membership-driven trade body that champions and helps accelerate the adoption of cloud technology and services. We've got members like Lenovo and Acronis and Broadcom and Hewlett-Packard Enterprise and Fujitsu and OVH Cloud and others. If you want to find out more, we're at cloudindustryforum.org. TWF goes live on Mondays at 10 o'clock UK time. Each week we'll have some technology stories that have sparked our interest, and then we interview a guest. Today it's someone who has a really cool approach to the cybersecurity topic, but we'll cover that later. We're on the lookout for speakers to come and contribute, so if you're doing something that supports or is supported by secure and trusted cloud technology, then we'd love to hear from you. You can connect with us in the comments here on LinkedIn. You can email us at info@cloudindustryforum.org. I'm at DT on X. I'm David_Terrar on Threads, and I've got an unusual surname, Terrar, so I'm easy to find on the web. The news to pick out from this last week has to be Mark Zuckerberg's keynote announcement kicking off their Meta Connect event, and a set of products he says that are enabling technologies that will help developers build the future of human connection. The aim is to help us feel closer, present with each other, no matter where we are in the world. We know that he's backed the metaverse big time, even changing the name of the company to Meta. And we know that Meta Reality Labs, the part the company is making all those investments, has actually lost $21 billion since the start of 2022. So, are the two hardware products announced last week going to support the metaverse vision better? He talks about a hybrid world that combines the digital world and all of the apps and devices we've been building over the last 20 years with the physical world that we all inhabit, although he was at pains to say both sides of those are the real world. The challenge is, how do we unify those experiences? It was notable to me that he followed the Apple approach of simplifying the language, talking mixed reality rather than acronyms. And it was also notable that he positioned the new Meta Quest 3 as an innovative product, not just because of the enhanced features, but because it's affordable, starting at $500, and it will be £480 in the UK when it comes here, which is a lot less than Apple's Vision Pro headset that we talked about a while back. He also mentioned no battery pack or wires to break the sense of presence, a few more digs at Apple. The other hardware product was the latest incarnation of the Ray-Ban smart glasses, which essentially are camera glasses combined with a microphone and headphone headset that links to your phone. But he suggested, interestingly, that smart glass form factor would eventually evolve into mixed reality's most convenient and affordable delivery device. Beyond the metaverse, of course, the technology sector's focus all year has been generative AI and large language models. And so there was plenty of airtime given in these announcements to Meta's new AI assistant products that he unveiled, and I'll be explaining them in the sequence that he did at the show. So first, he called the Meta Quest 3 the first mainstream mixed reality headset. Another bit of a dig at Apple. He said it was thinner, more comfortable, more powerful than its predecessor. It will be available next month. It has front-facing cameras to overlay the real world on the digital one. You'll navigate with brand new precision controllers or gesture, and he said the hand tracking is getting really good. Actually, it was notable that he mentioned the hand tracking several times, each time saying it's got really good. He went through some mixed reality examples and explained it's got a two-color camera sensors and a depth sensor to understand and allow you to share the virtual world with your physical space. He talked about playing virtual games on any flat space in your physical room. He talked about Xbox cloud gaming coming in December. He said you can drop a big virtual screen anywhere. And he talked about kind of movie watch parties. And I think that big screen is quite interesting. He also talked about avatars and augments coming next year. Augments are persistent, physically anchored digital objects that you can interact with. He said the virtual world experience of the Quest 3 was much better because the space has 10 times the pixels that the Quest 2 had. its availability means that we'll know if it's going to be a success by Christmas. Then he switched to AI. He talked about the products they've created so far using, that create video and sound and translate languages, and about using the leading open source language model, Llama 2. But then he highlighted how most people up to now haven't really experienced what AI can do, and he wants to change that. He talked about image generation models and a thing called EMU, which stands for Expressive Media Universe. And he explained this as being used in the new products, and they're rolling them out, emphasizing how fast it works, that it renders images in seconds rather than minutes. And he showed some pretty impressive examples of it. He explained that Meta's view is that rather than have one big AI encompassing everything, people will want to interact with different AI chatbots that do different things. People will want to create their own specific AIs for whatever it is that they do. So they're creating a platform to help us create those AIs to get things done or just to have fun. People will be able to interact with these AIs across the whole Meta universe of products. So in WhatsApp, in Messenger, in Instagram Direct, and in the metaverse too. They've created a number of AIs that they've started to roll out in beta this last week. The first is Meta AI, which is their basic assistant. It's based on the Llama 2 model, but it also has access to real-time information using Bing Search through a partnership with Microsoft. It links with the EMU image generator, and you can invoke it in any chat. In addition, they've created specific AIs like Lily, a personal editor, or Lorena for travel information, and they'll cover all manner of things from gaming to fashion to sports. And interestingly, they've partnered with 28 celebrities so far to actually kind of present those avatars in a fun way for each of the topics. To help you create your own AIs, they've launched AI Studio, and even a sandbox to help people who don't code. Finally, he covered the next generation of Ray-Ban smart glasses. The cameras are better, the audio is better, they're lighter, they're more comfortable. These will be the first smart glasses shipping with Meta AI in them, which means that you can then interact with wherever you go and give you answers in audio and text. Now that to me sounds powerful. He described it as the form factor where the AI can actually see what you're seeing and hear what you're hearing, and so give you better answers. They've got a 12 megapixel camera, 32 gigabytes of space, 5 microphones, better speaker system. They said the speakers are actually 50% louder than the previous version, and they leak less sound. There's a privacy LED so that you can see when people are recording you or taking images, and I think that's important. The battery life of these things is 4 to 6 hours, but depending on what you're doing, all the new charge case actually holds 8 charges, so you can last all day with them, potentially. They're available in October, and they'll start at $299. The headset and the smart glasses both sound promising, and we can see the direction of travel that Meta is going in. I'm intrigued by the aggressive pricing, and I'm impressed by the wide access to the new AI chatbot family. This feels like a good response to Apple's announcement and a smart approach in the AI game. We'll know how smart by Christmas. And so, to today's guest. I am delighted to introduce Miguel Clarke, who's visiting us from the USA, and we'll be getting into his particular take on the cybersecurity topic. So, Miguel, please introduce yourself and Armour, the company you work for.
Very good. So my name is Miguel Clarke. I am a GRC and Cybersecurity Evangelist for Armour Defense.
Excellent.
And Armour is an organization that has, for about the past 10 and a half, 11 years, done private hosting and has now moved into cloud security.
Excellent stuff.
Yes. But before that,
Yeah.
I was a special agent in the FBI for 23 and a half years, working violent crimes, counterterrorism, and most specifically, computer intrusions, or what we consider cybercrime today.
Excellent stuff. What triggered you into joining the FBI?
Oh, well, that's a pretty long story. But I had always loved technology.
Yeah.
And one day I'd been out drinking with some friends, and I made a joke that I was going to join the FBI one day. And about 2.5 weeks later, the FBI called me and said, I heard you're interested in joining the FBI. And 4 years later, I was an FBI agent.
Excellent stuff. That's
Yes.
great. Well, From that experience, can you tell us how you think the kind of like the cybersecurity landscape the threat landscape has changed over the last 10 years?
Sure. I started working computer intrusions in 2000, so I've got about 23 and a half years worth of experience in that space. And back then it was primarily firewalls and routers and layer 3.
Yeah, exactly.
And now we've got applications and human beings that are the targets and that are the weak points. Before we also had availability attacks, so you would see web defacements and things like that. And now we have so many other different types of problems.
Excellent stuff. Tell me, what are the kind of threats we have to worry about today?
So, top of mind for most individuals is ransomware, but intellectual property theft is probably the biggest problem that we have. There's probably in the neighborhood about 3 trillion worth of impact annually, approximately, if you're talking about intellectual property theft. But ransomware is probably the area where most folks are going to see the biggest problems.
Interesting. So how shall we be guarding against those kind of threats, particularly the ransomware type threat?
Well, for the past few years, we have looked at defensive solutions, and those have not worked particularly well. So I think we need to start thinking a little bit more about risk management earlier in the process. And we need to really focus on resilience. So protection relies on 100% accuracy, which we'll never have. And resilience is what happens when what we have expected to happen doesn't happen. What are we going to do when it gets bad? What are we prepared to do when it gets bad?
Interesting. So for organizations, where do you think the weakest link is in most organizations?
The weakest link. This is going to sound strange. The weakest link is overconfidence in the security tools and security plan that people have. Put in place a plan, you think it's going to work. Every time there's a computer intrusion or there's a breach, it's always a surprise. And people are not prepared for that. And so it is the overconfidence at thinking that what I've done up to this point is going to be good enough. And then realizing in the midst of an intrusion attack that it was nowhere near good enough.
Interesting. Now, I know from conversations we've had before, Miguel, that we've both got a common interest in kind of applying military tactics to this topic. And we talked about OODA loops before. So tell me about OODA loops and why they're important in this context.
Okay, so when you're in the midst of some type of an event, you need to be able to observe quickly, orient yourself, make decisions quickly, and then act, and then start that loop all over again. It's the best way for you to get inside of the adversary. So you have an adversary, that adversary is trying to do something to you, to your organization. They have their own plans that they are trying to accomplish or further, and then you're trying to defend against that. The quicker you can observe, make decisions, act, then re-observe, you'll get inside of their loop, and then it gives you an opportunity to disrupt what they're attempting to do.
Excellent, excellent. And when it comes to threats, I mean, what's more important, the actual detection of the threat or the way you react to it?
Good question. I think that they're intertwined, but it is the reaction to the threat, right? How quickly can you understand what's happened and then apply the right remedy? Okay.
Excellent. Now, most organizations today are kind of involved in digital transformation in some form. And one of my things is that digital transformation isn't a project. It's actually something that you should be doing continuously. You should always be competing with yourself to do things better digitally. How does that digital transformation topic sit alongside the cybersecurity topic? How does it fit together?
So from digital transformation, I think that there are a lot of different models for digital transformation, and in those models, security sits towards the end of that stack, right? And it tends to be something that you bolt on after you've made all the other decisions and all the other designs. And I don't know that that's inappropriate. But if you think of security as your primary risk management tool, then all the risk decisions that you make have to start way earlier in the process. And so if we think about security as a function of risk and managing, mitigating, and avoiding risk, then security has to be one of the first discussions that you have.
No, I totally get that. So when it comes to this whole topic, where should the typical organization be kind of investing their resources? Is there a particular place they should invest more? How should it work?
So I think that having a very robust idea of what your risk tolerance is a good place to start.
Yeah.
Then you can determine how much security do I need to apply in order to protect against these particular assets and against which threats. This is the way that we live our lives. If we need to get insurance for something, we think about the value of the asset, how much that is going to cost us, and then whether or not we're willing to pay that much. And so we always have the numbers associated with the risk in our personal lives. Consider insurance or any other of the things that we end up thinking, should I leave 20 minutes earlier? And it may cost me a little bit more money. Should I take a taxi? Right? This is going to cost a little bit more money to get. Yes. And so I think we need to bring these numbers into the cybersecurity discussion in a more meaningful way, a way that is decision useful.
Excellent. Now, the one thing we haven't mentioned up to this point in our conversation is artificial intelligence.
Yes.
And obviously that's it's the topic of the year.
It is.
We've been talking generative AI and large language models and all sorts of things right from the start of the year. Actually, before the start of the year, November is when OpenAI announced ChatGPT.
Yes.
How does that change the security landscape?
Well, I think we start to move through the data faster. We've got more data. I mean, AI is effectively the antidote to the big data problem that we created.
Yes.
And so AI allows us to move in the ways that we were already going to move and to move through those things more quickly. So that means that defenses can be generated more quickly, and the attacks against those defenses are also going to be generated that much more quickly. So I think effectively what AI will do is it's just going to speed everything up 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x for all of us. And there'll get to be a point in time where we as human beings cannot move as fast as AI has started to move the ball.
Okay. So listening to that's worrying. How do you think the threat landscape is going to change because of that in the next 2 or 3 years?
Like everything else, it's just going to continue to get worse and worse.
Yeah.
And then we'll start to think about how do we counter AI. And then there will be counter AI services. And then the AI will figure out how to counter the counter services. But the discussion about resilience will always be applicable, right? Like, how do I make sure that our organization is going to be okay after a particular incident? Well, how bad can it get? What am I prepared to do about it?
Excellent. Well, that's been great. For our audience,
yes,
is there any 2 or 3 things that you'd like them to take away from what you've said today and be focusing on?
I think I'm going to double click on the risk management, because that is something that we naturally do.
Yeah.
Right? When you have children, you start to mitigate risk in a way that you didn't before you didn't have children.
Yeah.
So start to think about the things that you naturally are inclined to do in order to protect the things that are important to you, and try to apply those very same principles to cybersecurity.
That's excellent, Miguel. Well, this has been a really awesome talk. Thanks for coming across and talking to us about this. Really great.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, I really hope you enjoyed today's show. I thought Miguel was fantastic. We'll have more next week. Drop by at 10 o'clock next Monday. If you want to find out more, put comments in the LinkedIn page here. Send us a message on info@cloudindustryforum.org. If you want to come and join in the show, we'd love to hear from you. See you next week.